Welcome to my channel, where we dive into the creepy, the unexplained, and the downright chilling. Today, I'm sharing a story that'll make your skin crawl, a real-life encounter my friends and I had one summer night. Picture this: a midnight walk to the beach, a detour through a dark forest, and a terrifying discovery in a lonely field. What we saw at 12 a.m. changed us forever. So, grab a blanket, dim the lights, and let's unravel the mystery of the man in the field. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more spooky stories. Let's get started. The air was thick with the salty tang of the ocean as my two best friends, Jake and Mia, and I set out for a late-night walk to the beach. It was a warm summer night, the kind where the stars seemed to pulse with secrets, and the world felt both vast and intimate. To be honest, I couldn't tell you why we decided to go to the beach at midnight. Maybe it was the restless energy of youth, the need to escape the monotony of our small coastal town, or just the thrill of doing something slightly reckless. Whatever the reason, we grabbed our flashlights, slipped on our sneakers, and headed out, our laughter echoing through the quiet streets. Jake, always the instigator, suggested we take a shortcut through the forest that bordered the town. "It'll cut 10 minutes off the walk," he said, his grin wide and mischievous. Mia, ever the cautious one, hesitated. "That place gives me the creeps at night," she muttered, but Jake and I teased her until she relented, rolling her eyes. "Fine, but if we get eaten by wolves, I'm blaming you both." The forest was dense, the canopy blotting out the moonlight, leaving us in a world of shadows. Our flashlights carved thin beams through the darkness, catching the glint of leaves and the occasional skitter of small creatures. We walked close together, our banter a shield against the eerie silence. Jake, true to form, started joking about horror movie cliches. "Bet you $1 someone jumps out of the bushes," he said, wiggling his eyebrows. Mia swatted his arm, but she laughed despite herself. "You're such an idiot," she said, and I joined in, mimicking a monster's growl. The forest seemed to swallow our voices, but we pressed on, buoyed by the camaraderie of shared stupidity. After what felt like an eternity, but was probably only 15 minutes, the trees thinned, and we emerged into a vast field. A single dirt road stretched across it, like a scar on the earth, leading toward the distant roar of the ocean. The field was eerily still, the tall grass swaying gently under the moonlight. Our laughter faded, replaced by a quiet awe at the expanse before us. "This is kinda cool," I said, my voice softer now, as if the field demanded reverence. We continued along the dirt road, our footsteps crunching softly. The joking had stopped, and a strange tension settled over us, though none of us acknowledged it. Maybe it was the lateness of the hour, or the way the field seemed to stretch on forever, but something felt off. Mia kept glancing over her shoulder, and Jake's usual swagger was subdued. I tried to shake it off, focusing on the faint sound of waves in the distance. Then, Mia stopped dead in her tracks. "Stop, stop, stop," she whispered, her voice barely audible but sharp with fear. Jake and I froze, following her gaze. My heart lurched into my throat. There, in the middle of the dirt road, sat a man. He was bald, his skin pale and glistening under the moonlight, and he wore nothing but tattered shorts. He looked to be in his 50s, his frame gaunt, almost skeletal. He sat cross-legged, his hands resting on his knees, staring straight ahead as if in a trance. The sight was so surreal, so utterly out of place, that for a moment, none of us could speak. It was midnight in the middle of nowhere, and this man was just sitting there. I swallowed hard, my mouth dry.
"Hey, sir?
"You okay?" I called out, my voice trembling slightly. Jake shot me a look that said, "Are you crazy?" But I ignored him. Maybe the guy needed help. Maybe he was lost or hurt. The man didn't move at first, and I thought he hadn't heard me. Then, slowly, he turned his head toward us. His eyes were wide, unblinking, and there was something in them, something empty, like a void where a soul should have been. "Everything's fine," he said, his voice low and raspy, like gravel scraping against stone. "I'm just sitting." The words hung in the air, heavy and wrong. Mia grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. Jake took a step back, his flashlight beam shaking slightly. "Cool, man," Jake said, forcing a laugh that sounded more like a choke. We're just gonna keep going. But we didn't keep going toward the beach. Instead, we turned and walked back the way we came, our pace quickening with every step. None of us spoke, but I could feel the fear radiating off my friends, mirroring my own. The man didn't follow us. At least, I don't think he did, but his presence lingered, a weight on our backs. We didn't stop until we were out of the field and back in the forest, the trees closing around us like a protective embrace. What the hell was that? Mia finally hissed, her voice shaking. Who just sits in the middle of a field at midnight? I don't know, and I don't want to know, Jake said, his usual bravado gone. Let's just get home. We made it back to town in record time, our flashlights bobbing wildly as we half ran through the forest. When we finally reached my house, we collapsed onto the porch, panting and shaken. We tried to laugh it off, to pretend it was just a weird encounter, but the unease lingered. We didn't talk about the beach again that summer, and we never took the forest shortcut again. Days turned into weeks, and the incident faded into the background of our lives. School started, and we were swept up in the chaos of senior year. But the story wasn't over, not by a long shot. One evening, while scrolling through local news on my phone, I froze. A headline caught my eye: "Local man missing, last seen near coastal field." The article was brief, but the details sent a chill down my spine. A man in his 50s, known for his eccentric behavior, had vanished after wandering into the fields near the forest. The photo accompanying the article was grainy, but there was no mistaking the bald head, the gaunt frame. It was him. I called Mia and Jake immediately, and we met up at the diner, our old hangout spot. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as we huddled in a booth, the article open on my phone. "This is the guy," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "The guy from the field." Mia's face paled. What if he wasn't just sitting there? What if he was, I don't know, running from something? Or hiding? Jake added, his voice grim. "He didn't look right, man. Those eyes." We spent hours speculating, our imaginations running wild. Had he been a drifter, lost in his own mind? A fugitive? Or something worse, something we couldn't comprehend? The article mentioned that the man had a history of mental health issues, but it offered no answers about why he'd been in the field that night or what had happened to him since. The story might have ended there, a creepy memory to laugh about years later, but fate had other plans. A few weeks later, Mia came to school looking like she hadn't slept in days. "I went back," she admitted, her voice barely audible. Jake and I stared at her, horrified. "You what?" I asked. "I couldn't stop thinking about it," she said, her eyes haunted. "I had to know if there was something else out there." She told us she'd gone to the field alone, at dusk, armed with nothing but her phone and a pocket knife. The dirt road was empty, the field as silent as it had been that night. But as she walked, she noticed something strange, a faint path branching off the road, barely visible in the grass. Curiosity got the better of her, and she followed it, her heart pounding. The path led to a small clearing, hidden by the tall grass. In the center was a circle of stones, each one etched with strange, spiraling symbols. The air in the clearing felt heavy, oppressive, and Mia said she could hear a low hum, like a distant engine. She took a few photos, but when she tried to leave, her phone died, despite being fully charged. Panicked, she ran back to the road and didn't stop until she was home. She showed us the photos, but they were blurry, the symbols indistinct. I think he was part of something," she whispered. "Like a ritual or, I don't know." Jake, usually the skeptic, didn't laugh. "We need to tell someone," he said. "The police, maybe." But what could we say? That we'd seen a creepy guy in a field, and now Mia had found some weird stones? It sounded insane, even to us. We agreed to keep it to ourselves, but the weight of that night grew heavier with each passing day. Months later, the man was declared presumed dead, his disappearance unsolved. The field was searched, but no trace of him, or the stone circle, was ever found. Mia swore the clearing had been real, but doubt crept in, even for her. We drifted apart after graduation, the memory of that night a silent wedge between us. Jake moved across the country, and Mia threw herself into college, avoiding any mention of the field. I stayed in town, haunted by the what-ifs. Years later, I found myself walking near the forest, drawn by a pull I couldn't explain. It was dusk, the sky bruised with purples and reds. I didn't plan to go to the field, but my feet carried me there, down the dirt road, now overgrown with weeds. The air was still, the silence oppressive. I stopped where we'd seen the man, half expecting to find him sitting there, unchanged by time. There was nothing. No man, no stones, no answers. Just the endless field, stretching into the darkness. But as I turned to leave, I heard it, a low hum, faint but unmistakable, rising from the earth. I ran, my heart pounding, and I didn't look back. That night taught us a lesson we'd never forget. Some mysteries are better left unsolved. We were young, reckless, chasing thrills without considering the consequences. The man in the field might have been harmless, a lost soul in a moment of crisis. Or he might have been something else entirely, tied to forces we couldn't comprehend. Either way, our curiosity nearly pulled us into something we weren't prepared for. The world is full of shadows, places where the veil between the ordinary and the unknown is thin. You can laugh at the darkness, joke about monsters in the bushes, but sometimes the darkness looks back. And when it does, you'd better be ready to run.